Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a recommendation video. I have not done one of these in so long, but I've had the idea of doing this probably a few different videos where I do book recommendations based off of specific aesthetics, and I thought it would be fun to kick it off with a seasonal version of this. So I am going to be recommending you what books you should read this fall based off of your favorite fall aesthetic. A couple of disclaimers before we get into the video. First of all, I do apologize if you can hear any background noise. I do have the window open because although I want to bring in those fall vibes, it is warm today and I need some fresh air, especially while I'm wearing this. Secondly, I am primarily a horror reader. That is the main genre that I read. I love the dark and twisted things. So most of these recommendations will be leaning more towards horror. There will be a lot of thrillers in here, and I just wanted to put that out before we get started, just in case anybody clicks on this video looking for some cute and cozy fall recommendations. If you're looking for like fall romances and cutesy books, that is not this video, and I just wanted to warn everybody before we get into it. So I have my laptop down here if you see me looking down, but I have compiled 4 different distinct fall aesthetics and we are going to go through each of them and I'm going to give you recommendations. So grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's get into it. So the first fall aesthetic that we are going to be talking about today is what I just call the cozy fall aesthetic. Somebody with this aesthetic is somebody that I picture always wearing like cute, comfy sweaters. You have a stack of cute and comfy blankets. You love pumpkin spice, you love cinnamon rolls, you like just relaxing by the fireplace in your cute, comfy fall clothes, and everything is about being cozy and warm. So how I picture somebody for this aesthetic reading for the fall is like I said, you got your comfiest clothes on, your cutest clothes on, you have a nice blanket, you're cuddled up on the couch, maybe you have a real fireplace, maybe you have some fireplace ambiance, but these are books that I think you can curl up on the couch with and just get swept away in the story. So the first book recommendation that I have for this aesthetic is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is a thriller, this is a classic, and this is about a woman, a young woman who gets married to a new man, and she becomes obsessed with her new husband's ex-wife. This is one where you can get so swept up in the atmosphere. The writing is absolutely beautiful, and I can definitely picture somebody on a cozy fall night curled up by the fire reading this book. The next one that I have is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I'm sure we all know about Coraline from the movie. This is about a young girl who gets swept up into an alternate reality, another world where she meets characters who may not have her best interest at heart. This is very magical, kind of gives off a very fairy tale vibe, and if you love the movie, I think you could definitely enjoy the book, and vice versa. So I feel like this is a comfort movie for a lot of people, so that's why I feel like this would fit perfectly with that cozy aesthetic. The next one is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is another book where the protagonist is a young character. In this one we are following a young boy who gets visited by a monster at night. This monster visits with him, tells him stories, and at the end of the book, this young boy has to tell his own story to the monster that has been visiting him. This is very, very emotional. Expect to cry with this one. The next one I have is actually a graphic novel. This is The Sad Ghost Club by Liz Meddings. I believe there are a few different volumes in this series. I have only read the first one. I will say it is definitely created for a little bit of a younger audience, but I think this is just a fun, cute little fall read. It kind of gives a little bit of Halloween vibes with the ghosts, but at the end of the day, it just has a very sweet messaging to it. And if anybody has ever dealt with anxiety, depression, any of those struggles, especially as a young teenager, I think this book could definitely speak directly to you and be relatable in a lot of ways. The next cozy fall book recommendation that I have is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I just recently read this one. If you guys have watched my channel, you know that. The one-word summation that I have for this book is magical. This is a book that has characters that feel so real. The setting is so easy to get swept up into, and it just has this light magical feeling to it throughout the whole entire book, but it also has an emotional impact as well. In this book, we are following a woman who makes a bargain with an old god, and after that bargain has been made, she becomes pretty much immortal, but throughout her entire life, she cannot be remembered by anybody. So anyone she interacts with will not remember her after a very, very short period, and that leaves her very, very alone in the world. So I really, really loved this story. I think this is like perfect for fall, perfect for a cozy night in with a book. The next one kind of has a similar vibe. This is kind of a fantasy paranormal romance. I would say this is for a younger audience as well. This is Grove Hollow Metamorphosis. This is a series that is still being released, so this is the first book, the only one that I have read, but this is about a young girl who gets into a romantic relationship with a ghost after moving to a small town. This definitely has a vibe of friendship. It takes place in the 90s and it exudes that 90s spirit. I really, really loved like the soft romantic elements. This is definitely one that I feel like cozy sums up so well. It's also kind of underrated. I don't really ever see people talk about this one, but if you are a paranormal romance fan, I would recommend it. The next one is These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. This is another thriller that definitely packs an emotional punch. This is about a man and his daughter who are living out in the woods, kind of off the grid. You know that something happened in their past that this man has chosen to kind of hide from everybody and take his daughter with him, but you will not see it coming, the reason for this. And this book definitely made me cry. This is definitely one that you could curl up with and just get lost in the story and get invested in the characters. It's just a beautiful story. The next cozy fall book recommendation I have is The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. This is kind of a coming of age story that definitely gives off that feel of like some of Stephen King's books, maybe a little bit of like that Stranger Things vibe, where we are focused on a group of friends and they are investigating some local urban legends, some ghost stories in the town that they live in, but this one definitely is a lot more emotional than you would expect it going into it, so I feel like this one fits the vibe perfectly. The next one I have is another underrated one that I don't see enough people talking about. This is Elegy for the Undead by Matthew Vesley. This is a very unique zombie apocalypse book. It is a novella, so this is a nice short and quick read, but this is about a couple, one of which contracts this virus that is causing the whole zombie outbreak, and it is about the two of them spending their last moments together. It's emotional again. It's about love and friendship and relationships and grief, and it's a beautiful story that I wish more people read. The next recommendation I have is Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. Really, I think you could put any Rachel Harrison book in this cozy category. Anytime I've ever talked about her on my channel, you guys probably know I sound like a broken record, but her books just feel like a warm, cozy, comforting hug, and they are always perfect for fall and for the Halloween season. So like I said, you could take any Rachel Harrison book and plug it in here. I chose Such Sharp Teeth because it is my favorite of hers, I think, that I've read, and one that I think is easier to broadly recommend than some of her other books. Like, there are some that I've enjoyed before that I don't think the general public would enjoy as much as I did, and then vice versa. Some of her more popular ones I feel like I enjoyed a little bit less. So this is a good middle ground. This is about a woman going through a transformation where she may or may not be turning into a werewolf. The battery decided to die on me. But what I was going to say is that this is light and fun and comical throughout, but then definitely brings in a little bit of a horror element. This is perfect for the cozy fall aesthetic. The last book that I have for the cozy aesthetic is Pine by Francine Toon. This book definitely leans more like classic mystery than it does into thriller or horror category. This is about a single father and his daughter dealing with the grief after his wife and his daughter's mother went missing in the past. There is another central mystery that gets presented throughout the book. This is atmospheric, haunting, like I said, emotional, deals with that grief and deals with the relationship between the father and the daughter, and the complexities that come with that. Moving on now to our next aesthetic. This is what I like to call like spooky fall, forever Halloween. This is those of us that are very much excited for fall just for the Halloween vibes. You like things dark. You like your spooky decorations, ghosts and ghouls and goblins. You like visiting the cemetery. You like dressing in dark clothes. You like drinking black coffee. If that is your vibe, that's also partly my vibe. I like the spookiness, but that are just other things that I associate with this aesthetic. This is the one that I definitely have the most recommendations for because, like I said, I read mostly horror, so I have a lot of horror recommendations. I'm gonna kick us off with recommending a graphic novel. This is Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. I read this a few years ago, but I really enjoyed it. I loved the art in this. If you are looking for something quick to read that is a little bit spooky in nature, I think this will be perfect. This is 5 interconnected stories that all center around journeying through the woods and what might be lying in there. The next book recommendation that I have is Come Closer by Sarah Gran. This is a pretty quick read. It is a novella, so it's perfect for a cozy, spooky night in, and we are following a woman who believes she is becoming possessed, dealing with demonic possession. It is claustrophobic and creepy and so good. I love Sarah Gran so much. Next, I'm going to recommend 2 books by Paul Tremblay. The first one is A Head Full of Ghosts. I think this is perfect for fall because I read this for the first time during fall and it is so perfect. Once again, it deals with possession. We are following a family as one of their young daughters is dealing with a demonic possession question mark because her family thinks maybe she's just dealing with a mental health crisis and there's not actually anything to it. So we are following a bunch of different people and the events that they are witnessing. This has a crazy ending that has stuck with me and will continue to stick with me. This is another one that I feel like you could use the word claustrophobic to describe and is definitely perfect for a spooky season read. The next one that I want to recommend by this author is The Pallbearers Club. I just recently read this one. This is one that I don't think I would recommend broadly. I think A Head Full of Ghosts I would recommend more broadly. If this is like the first time you're reading Paul Tremblay, go with that one. If you've read other Paul Tremblay and enjoyed it, then try out The Pallbearers Club. This is focused mainly on the relationship, a friendship between 2 people, one of whom may or may not be a vampire. We have 2 sort of unreliable narrators in here, and we are really focused on their connection to one another, all of their past history, and some weird things that may have happened. I don't know, I just feel like when I was reading this book, I was like, this is giving me like such huge fall vibes right now. Next, for my Halloween lovers, of course I have to recommend at least one Halloween book. This one is called Halloween Fiend. It is by C.V. Hunt. This is a novella about a very strange small town who has a very strange custom. They have a creature named Halloween who comes by for a nightly visit, and if you don't leave something out for Halloween, you don't want to know what happens. This was weird and perfect. I would specifically recommend this to people who are fans of the movie Trick or Treat, and Sam and Sam's character in there. One of my favorite horror movies, especially for this time of the year. If you like that movie, read this book. If you like this book, watch that movie. Next up is Crossroads by Laurel Hightower, another novella, so you can get through this one pretty quickly. This one does have an emotional impact. It deals with grief after a mother has lost her son. However, she then finds a way that she can kind of bring his spirit around and still get to see him. And then we are left with the question of how far is this woman willing to go? How much is she willing to sacrifice to see her dead loved one again? And it gets dark and gruesome and emotional. Next, I have two recommendations, again by one of my favorite horror authors. This is Stephen Graham Jones. The first one that I have to recommend is The Babysitter Lives, which is so exciting because this used to previously only be available on audio, and now you can actually get a print copy of it. So get it, order it now so it comes in time for your spooky season of fall time reads. This is kind of sounds like a classic traditional horror story where we have a babysitter home alone with the two young kids that she's watching. She gets a visit by something strange and things get weird. This is a mind-bending book. This will literally alter your perception of reality. This is definitely one that you'll probably finish it and be like, let me read that again, to pick up on all the subtle hints throughout. This one I think is definitely perfect for the Halloween season. I might be mistaken, but I do believe that it takes place on or near Halloween. Let me double check. Yes, this book takes place on the night before Halloween, so definitely perfect for this time of year. Go in knowing as little as possible, let the book take you away, and just have a great time. The next one that I want to recommend by this author is his newest release, The Buffalo Hunter Hunter. This is more of a historical horror. This does deal with vampires. It also goes a lot into some social commentary on racism and genocide, and it's just a very, very impactful read. I love the way that the story slowly unfolds in here, and then it gets crazy and unhinged towards the end, as Stephen Graham Jones likes to do. You think you know what's gonna happen, but you really don't. The next one that I'm going to recommend is The September House by Carissa Orlando. Unfortunately, this video is going up a little bit late, so unless you rush, you can't really read The September House in September, but regardless, it is still great for this time of year. You think it is a typical haunted house story, but it is so much more. This deals with trauma and grief. It is kind of a perfectly crafted horror story in my opinion, because it balances so many different elements, and it does so in such a just a great way. Like I said, not only is there grief and trauma that is talked about here, it's also genuinely scary at some points and really is a haunted house story. But then it's also comedic because we have a very unique main character. The way that she approaches things in this book is so fun to read along with. So I would definitely recommend this if you are looking for a unique haunted house story for this spooky season. Next up is Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. I don't know if this book will work for everybody, but I absolutely loved it. What I recommend, because that's what I did when I read this book, is like put your headphones in with your spooky Halloween playlist on and just like lock the fuck in. This is about a children's TV show, Mr. Magic, who was the protagonist of this show. However, there is no trace of this show online. All there is a bunch of people who remember watching it, and specifically people who remember being on this show. They are now adults, they come back together, they are kind of trying to unsolve this mystery. This has social commentary in it as well. It examines religion, and I really, really loved all of the vibes of this. The next one is The Ritual by Adam Neville. I think Adam Neville is a great author if you need something spooky and fucked up to read, but this I think is definitely one that can most broadly be recommended. If you've seen the movie, you definitely need to read the book. This is about a group of friends who decide to go hiking. One of them gets injured. They think, well, let's just take a shortcut through the woods back, and then they stumble upon some things that they were never meant to see. And this has a really, really fun creature feature. It is scary, spooky, and perfect for this time of year. The next recommendation for this aesthetic is Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. This is one of those books that started off on like the Reddit no sleep forum, kind of a creepy pasta. This is about a man telling us stories of some strange things that happened to him throughout his childhood. All of the stories connect together at the end. This is creepy and tense and definitely pretty spooky. You'll probably want to read this one with the lights on. Next, if you're looking for something a little lighter and a little more fun but still has those slasher horror vibes, I would recommend the Clown in a Cornfield series. I believe this is a trilogy. I enjoyed the earlier books more than the last ones, but I think that's just because I kind of forgot some of the things that happened. But this takes place in a small town. We are following a girl in high school who moves with her father to this very, very small town, and then ends up being present for a huge massacre that occurs by Friendo the Clown. It digs into small town secrets, rivals among communities, and it's just really, really a fun, fast-paced read to give you those slasher vibes for Halloween. Next, I have another novella. This is We Need to Do Something by Max Booth III. This, I think, go in knowing as little as possible, because no matter how much you know, like, the book is gonna go a totally crazy different direction. We are following a family of four. I think 4, or maybe it's a family of 5, whatever, it's a family, and they get a tornado warning, and they decide to kind of barricade themselves in the bathroom because they are trying to stay in like a central location and all stay together. They end up getting trapped in there after this tornado, but it takes a twist and it goes somewhere you will never predict. That's really all I'm gonna say about this one. Next, I have another underrated favorite. This is also a translated work. This is Human Sacrifices by Maria Fernanda Ampuero. This is a short story collection. It gets dark and weird and strange, and probably one of my favorite short story collections to date, and I want more people to read it. 2 more for this category. We're almost there, okay? The next one is more of a Halloween themed book. This is One Must Go by Alex Reed. This is about a few kids on Halloween night. They are approached by this being that says, I need a sacrifice. You guys get to decide among yourselves who that sacrifice is going to be, but at the end of the night, like, I'm eating one of you. And so we are following this group of kids as they are, you know, trying not to die, but then they're also faced with this decision of like, they have to decide who to sacrifice. This is fast paced, very quick, high on the Halloween, high on the fall vibes, gory. The last one that I have for the spooky, scary aesthetic is a newer release. This is The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi. Look at this cover and tell me that's not giving like fall Halloween vibes. Like, it's orange and black. You need to read it. This, as the title says, takes place at a retirement home. We have an elderly woman as our protagonist. There are a bunch of murders occurring, and it is kind of left to her to figure out who the killer is, why they are committing these murders, and she is also fighting to stay alive the entire way. If you want that classic slasher story with a little bit of a fun twist because it's in a different setting with a different type of protagonist than you would normally get, then I would recommend this one. I think Philip Fracassi does horror excellently. Up next, we have the Rustic Fall aesthetic. So for this one, I picture like you're on a farm. You are at the apple orchards. You are in the pumpkin patch. You're wearing flannel, maybe some cute little boots. You're drinking apple cider. You have plenty of fall decor that has like classic antique looking pickup trucks on it, okay? that is the rustic fall aesthetic. The first book that I have is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is perfect because if you are a rustic fall aesthetic person, you have probably gone to the farmer's market at least once this season. And this book starts off at a farmer's market. This is about a relationship between two women, but one of them has a lot of red flags that the other one ignores, and it gets crazy towards the end. It definitely is horror, it's gory. This is a novella, so you can read it pretty quickly. Next, I have a short story if you're looking for something really quick to read. This is The Pram by Joe Hill. This is in the Creature feature collection of short stories on Amazon. Boo, Amazon, but this was a good story. I'm not gonna say much about it because, you know, it's a short story, but it's creepy. Has to do with the woods and like creepy babies, kind of. Next up is Grey Dog by Elliot Gish. This is sort of a historical horror. I would definitely call this quiet horror. This is about a woman who takes a teaching position kind of in a small town, away from everything, and some strange things start happening to her in the woods around there, and we are uncovering what might be lurking. I really love this. This was so atmospheric. The writing is so gorgeous, and I don't know, I just feel like it fits the vibe. The next one is Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge. This is more of a classic horror book. This is definitely folk horror. This takes place in a very small town where they have a very unique Halloween tradition once again. It involves teenagers and murder and small town secrets and a creature. The next book recommendation that I have is The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. This is kind of like a ghost haunting story. This is about a man who goes to a woman's estate after she dies. He is trying to kind of get things in order, and he begins seeing some paranormal entities there. It starts off pretty harmless, very quickly becomes a little bit dangerous for everybody involved. This is once again very atmospheric, a little bit spooky, and I think perfect for, I don't know, I just feel like it fits the rustic vibe. I really can't justify any of these. A lot of them are definitely like folk horror themed and like have to do with like woods and forests and stuff. I don't know, and like kind of quiet horror I feel like is what a lot of these recommendations are. The next one is In the House in the Dark of the Woods. This is by Laird Hunt. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. This is one that definitely gives off dark fairy tale vibes. Once again, it has that theme of like being in the woods, a woman alone in the woods encountering different things. It is a little bit fever dreamy, and I think this is a perfect one. This is another shorter book that would be a very quick read. The next one, also another shorter one, is Ghost Wall. This book is by Sarah Moss, and it's kind of a weird one to pitch because I don't really know how to really explain it. But we are primarily following a family, a mother, a father, and a daughter. And the father kind of takes his family to join in with this group to practice what life was like back in the day. And they are out in the woods kind of living off of the land, and this definitely kind of deals with like conversation about like the cult mindset and how things can get a lot darker and dangerous than you expect, a lot quicker than you can expect. The next one that I have is Cabbage by C.S. Fritz, another novella, very short one to read. This is about a husband who has lost his wife. Before she died, he kind of planted a garden in her honor, and something happens by accident and changes the garden into something else. This is kind of a little bit cosmic horror. It's bloody, it is dark, and just overall a fun time. Another underrated favorite. Also, this next one is another underrated favorite. This is Helpmeet by Nabin Ruthnam. I don't know if that's how you pronounce this author's name, but this one is a little bit historical in nature as well. This is about a woman who is caring for her sick husband. The body horror is like insane in this book. This author really knows how to deliver in a novella. There is so much packed into this book. The writing is stunning. The descriptions of the horror and everything that's happening are just gag worthy in like not a good way, and I need more people to read this. Next up, I have another Adam Neville book. This one is another novella. This is The Vessel by Adam Neville. This follows a woman who goes to work as a caregiver for an elderly woman, kind of living a little bit isolated in the woods, and she finds that there is something weird going on with this old woman. This is kind of creepy, but kind of has that kind of classic like witchy folk horror feel to it. The next one is The Book of Witching by C.J. Cook. This is a dual timeline book. This definitely leans, I would say, more thriller mystery than it is really horror. Very light on the horror. We have a past timeline and a present timeline. Hence the title. This definitely deals with witches. We have a woman who is investigating some strange land and the legends around it after her daughter is involved in an accident. Keeping on theme with weird stuff that happens out in nature, the next book recommendation I have is Mastodon by Steve Stredd, another novella. This is following a man whose parents both went missing in the Rocky Mountains. He goes out to this location to try to figure out what happened to them. He uncovers some crazy secrets, and this is another underrated favorite. And the last book recommendation that I have for this aesthetic is Smother Moss by Alyssa Alluring. This is a book that takes place in Appalachia in the 80s. We are primarily following two sisters. They live a very unusual life because they're kind of off the grid. They work very hard for the few things that they do have, and they just live a very sheltered life. And then one day they find that two hikers are brutally murdered on a trail nearby to them. There is no leads on the whereabouts to this killer, so they are working together to kind of uncover that, but also save themselves, save their family. This is atmospheric first and foremost, but it's also dark, and it deals with monsters and ghouls and magic and mystery, and I think this fits the rustic aesthetic very well. Now we are on to the last aesthetic that I have for this video, which is the dark academia fall aesthetic. Of course, I'm sure we can all picture dark academia. We're picturing like gothic architecture, kind of dark fall vibes. Obviously an academic setting, I'm picturing tea and like studying by candlelight, books, and it's just kind of a moody, rainy vibe. This, I will say, because there are a few books that always get recommended with the dark academia aesthetic. This is not something that I've explored a whole lot, but I wanted to choose books that were a little bit different than what you could get anywhere else on the internet if you look up dark academia recommendations. So not all of these technically fit into dark academia because they are not all academic settings, but I feel like they would fit the aesthetic very well. However, with all of that being said, I am going to start off with a few that are recommended usually with this aesthetic. The first one is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This is a thriller. We have two different timelines in here. We are following a girl at college in one timeline after her friend is assaulted by a man. And then we have a different timeline of an older woman who is working at a school, and she is kind of picking off bad men one by one. This is one of those like good for her type of books. I really loved the plot of this, the writing of this, the atmosphere of this, and the twist in this one. The next book that I have is another one that gets recommended a lot for dark academia. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This follows a group of college friends. When they were in school, one of their friends got killed. Somebody went away for the murder, yet we're not really sure if that person is actually the one who committed it. So now we are following the same group of friends as they come back near the campus for a college reunion. Old secrets start to come out, there is drama, and we start to learn what might actually have been the truth of what happened that night. Also by Ashley Winstead, I want to recommend The Last Housewife, which is the first one that kind of branches off from that academic setting, but I still feel like it's very dark and twisty and can kind of fit the vibe. This kind of has a similar premise. We have a group of friends from college. They get wrapped up in the life of a man, a dangerous man, let's call it that. One of them does not make it out of this situation. Now we are in the future and our main character finds that the other woman that she went through this experience with has just been found dead. And so she kind of travels back to uncover the mystery of what happened, why this woman has turned up dead after so long, and why she thinks it may have been connected to what happened in their past. There is also a podcast element in this. This might be one that you may want to check trigger warnings for if you are sensitive to some topics. Really, actually anything. If you are sensitive to some topics, you might want to check trigger warnings, but I know that this does deal with some darker topics. The next one is a very classic one. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This definitely has that gothic, weird, fever dreamy vibe. I can't even really pitch the plot of this to you. This is about a strange and unusual family living in a strange and unusual home. They are kind of outcasts of the area that they are in. They have a lot of dark mystery and death in their past, and it's just a strange little read, but a classic. The next book recommendation that I have for this aesthetic is Shutter Island by Dennis Lahani. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. This is kind of another like classic thriller. I feel like this one is definitely fitting into that dark, moody, atmospheric setting. Okay, this takes place on an island. We are following two detectives that have been sent to an island that is home to a psychiatric institution. They are investigating the disappearance of a woman, and things are not as they seem. There might be some darker secrets within this institution and with the people that run it, and it definitely, if you have not been spoiled for it by now, do not look anything up before you read this book because the twist is insane. Next, I have a short story collection. This is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. This is definitely feminist horror. This is short stories that focus on women, women's bodies, how women are treated and perceived. It is kind of dark and magical and kind of has like some dark fairy tale vibes to it, and I feel like that dark, moody fall aesthetic really fits this one as well. Next up is Catherine House. This is by Elizabeth Thomas, and this brings us back to that real dark academia setting. This does take place at a school, a pretty prestigious school that our main character gets into. It is very isolated. There are a lot of weird, dark things happening there. This definitely gets fever dreamy at times, and I do see a lot of people complain that it gets confusing and they have a hard time like understanding what happens in the book, but the atmosphere is like top tier. I loved the vibe of this, and I think it would be perfect to read during fall time. The next one is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell, which is another dark type of thriller. In this, we are following a woman who just learns that she has inherited a house. She has not really known who her family is her whole life. However, at this home, we come to learn that once upon a time, there was a 911 call, and when people responded, all they found was a baby in there and a bunch of deceased adults. And nobody really knows what truly happened. So we have a bunch of different perspectives, different people that are piecing it together that are all kind of involved in this somehow. This is really dark and twisted, and I really enjoyed it. There is a sequel to this. If you're going off of my personal recommendation, I would say the sequel is not worth reading, but I do really enjoy this one. The next book recommendation that I have is The Grimmer by Naven Ruthnam. This is definitely a book that is for a younger audience. It feels very young adult to me, so just keep that in mind before going into it. This delves into themes of the occult and dark magic. It is also primarily set at a bookstore, so I feel like that really helps kind of sell the whole dark academia vibe of it. We are following a young boy who has had a hard time at home due to a lot of different things with his parents. He had to go away for a while. He comes back, he's feeling very out of place, very alone in the world. He meets some new people, and then he gets wrapped up in something that he never could have imagined or predicted. This was fun, like I said, definitely for a younger audience, but I enjoyed it. Next, I am actually going to recommend something a second time. I recommended this for the cozy aesthetic, but I also feel like it fits in with dark academia as well, and that is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This has a gothic, dark atmosphere to it, and once again, it's just a tale of obsession that really sucks you in. The next recommendation that I have is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This is another kind of dark fantasy. We are following a young girl in a small town where Starling House is kind of this like very well-known estate because a very well-known author used to live there. Our main character gets the opportunity to go inside of this home, and while she is in there, she uncovers some dark secrets that take her into a dark fantasy world. There's also a little bit of a romance in here. This definitely could fit into the cozy category as well, but I feel like the atmosphere also fits dark academia. I really enjoyed this one. I know it didn't work for everybody, but I think this is a perfect fall read. We have 2 more left to go. This next one, I will admit, does get recommended a lot with the dark academia aesthetic, and that is Bunny by Mona Awad, which is about a woman at college who gets an invitation to this like popular girls group where they call each other Bunny, and it gets weird from there. This is definitely a fever dream type of book where you will finish reading it and be like, what the actual fuck was that? But this is really rich in atmosphere, especially that academic setting that I'm sure you're looking for if dark academia is your aesthetic. And the last book that I have to recommend for this aesthetic and for this video is The Madness by Dawn Kurtagich. I read this recently for Summerween. I did not know before going into it, and I feel kind of silly. Don't hate me, but I still have yet to read Dracula, but I guess this is kind of like, I don't know if it's a retelling or if it's just Dracula inspired, but this is a vampire horror book. We have a woman who is working as a doctor in psychiatry. She is presented with a young woman who has some very strange symptoms. She then gets a call from her estranged best friend, and she goes out to visit her, and her estranged best friend is also having very similar symptoms, and they start to uncover some secrets and look at the link between these 2 cases and the cases of many other young missing women. This one definitely has very small town moody aesthetic as well, and I just feel like the vibe kind of fits with dark academia. It also does involve like history and research and like kind of scholarly things, so maybe this could really work. With all of that being said, that is all of the fall book recommendations that I have for you guys today. Let me know down below, what is your favorite fall aesthetic? Obviously, a lot of these aesthetics can overlap with each other. A lot of the books can overlap with different aesthetics, so take all of the recommendations with a grain of salt. But with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.